The air in Ximending buzzed with its usual mixture of chatter, music, and the faint aroma of street food drifting from the night market. Among the streams of pedestrians, a sleek black car eased to a stop outside the Golden Leaf Café. Its tinted window slid down, revealing Lin Meihua's perfectly made-up face. She did not smile. She never did. Inside, Chen Yuding wiped the polished counter for the third time that morning. It was not that it was dirty, but she needed something to do. Whenever Meihua came in, the mood changed. Customers stopped talking. The air grew tense, like before a summer storm. The cafe door swung open and Meihua entered, her heels clicking like a metronome against the tiled floor. She walked straight past the waiting line. Her designer handbag brushed against a student's arm, but she did not glance at him. "I'll have my usual. Now," she said, placing her phone on the counter, without looking up. The glowing screen showed a stream of unread messages. Yuding's fingers tightened around the cloth in her hand. "Miss Lin," Yuding began carefully, "we have customers ahead of you." Meihua finally raised her eyes. They were cold and sharp, the kind that measured a person and found them unworthy. "I don't wait." A faint murmur spread among the customers. One man near the back folded his arms. A young woman pulled out her phone. Meihua either did not notice or did not care. From the far corner, the cafe manager, Wang Zhihao, watched the scene. His jaw tightened. He had seen this before, too many times. The staff had complained, but Meihua's family connections made it complicated. Still, today something in Zhihao's expression was different. Yuding glanced towards him, unsure. Zhihao gave the smallest of nods. Yuding set the cleaning cloth down and stepped back. Meihua tapped the counter impatiently. "Well," she said. Zhihao began walking towards her, his steps slow but deliberate. The sound of the espresso machine filled the brief silence, the hiss of steam like a warning. Outside, the late afternoon light slanted through the windows, painting golden streaks across the floor. Nobody in the cafe knew it yet, but this was the day things would not go as Lin Meihua expected. Zhihao stopped a pace away from Meihua. His presence was calm but carried a weight that made the nearest customers instinctively fall silent. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Miss Lin," he said evenly, "this is a cafe. People are served in the order they arrive." Meihua's mouth curled in a faint smile. It wasn't one of amusement, but of someone who had heard the same protest many times before and dismissed it each time. "Do you know who I am?" she asked, her tone silk wrapped around steel. Zhihao did not flinch. The hiss of the espresso machine sounded again, a ribbon of steam rising into the warm air. The smell of fresh coffee drifted between them, sharp and rich. Yuding shifted uneasily behind the counter. The student who had been brushed aside earlier was now watching closely, his hands resting on the edge of his table. The young woman with the phone was still filming, her camera tilted slightly to capture everything. "You'll take my order now," Meihua said, as if the conversation were already over. Zhihao's gaze didn't waver. "I'll take your order when it is your turn. You may wait or you may leave." A ripple of surprise moved through the cafe. No one had ever spoken to Meihua like that here. For a heartbeat, she seemed frozen. Then, with an elegant lift of her chin, she took a single step closer. "You're making a mistake," she said softly. Zhihao leaned just slightly forward. "No, Miss Lin. I'm correcting one." The words hung in the air. Somewhere outside, a motorbike engine started and faded away. The moment seemed stretched, delicate, ready to break. Meihua's eyes narrowed. She picked up her phone from the counter, its glossy surface catching the golden light, and without another word, she walked to a small table near the window. She sat down, crossing her legs, and began to type a message with swift, sharp movements of her fingers. The cafe exhaled as if it had been holding its breath. But beneath the murmurs, a question began to form in the minds of those watching. What would she do next? Outside, Taipei's evening light deepened, casting long shadows through the cafe windows. Street lamps flickered on, bathing the Ximending pavement in a pale amber glow. Inside, the Golden Leaf Café was quieter than usual, but every pair of eyes seemed to slide back to Meihua. She sat perfectly still except for her fingers, which moved across her phone screen with swift precision. Now and then, her gaze drifted towards the counter, not with curiosity, but with calculation. Jihao returned to the back counter, speaking quietly to Yuding. His voice was low enough that only those closest could hear, but the look in his eyes was enough to suggest he had no intention of backing down. Two regular customers, an elderly man with a cap and a woman in a green scarf, exchanged murmurs near the door. They had seen Meihua's behavior before, but never a public challenge. It was as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Without warning, Meihua rose from her seat and walked outside. The sound of her heels faded into the hum of the street. Conversations picked up again, tentative, like birds returning after a storm. Yuding leaned closer to Jihao. "She's calling someone," she whispered. Jihao gave a single nod. "Then let her." The air in the cafe thickened with a strange anticipation. Somewhere, the storm was gathering, and when it broke, everyone here would be caught in it. 20 minutes later, the door to the Golden Leaf Café swung open again. Meihua stepped inside, followed by a tall man in a dark suit. His expression was unreadable, but the sharp cut of his jacket and the smooth precision of his stride marked him as someone used to being listened to. "Manager Wang," Meihua said, her voice carrying. "This is Mr. Liang. I believe you will now take my order." The murmur of customers died instantly. Mr. Liang's eyes moved over the room, cool and assessing. Jihao straightened, his hands resting lightly on the counter. "I don't believe I know you, sir," Jihao said. "You will," Liang replied. "Miss Lin is a valued client of several establishments in Taipei. She does not wait in queues." Jihao's jaw tightened, but his tone remained even. "In my cafe, sir, she does. Everyone does." Liang's gaze sharpened. "You would risk her reputation? And your own?" Jihao's answer was simple. "I would protect the dignity of my customers. All of them." For a moment, the two men regarded each other like opposing pieces on a chessboard. Then Liang's lips curved, but there was no humor in it. "This is not over," he said. The pair turned and left, the soft chime of the doorbell marking their exit. The cafe exhaled again, but this time, the release was edged with uncertainty. By the following morning, the streets of Ximending were alive with whispers. Someone had uploaded the video of the confrontation. It spread quickly through social media, reaching not just locals but the wider city. Yuding's phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from friends who had seen her in the background of the clip. Jihao's inbox filled with comments, some praising his stand, others warning him about Meihua's influence. Meihua herself was nowhere to be seen, but her absence felt heavier than her presence. Late that afternoon, a delivery arrived at the cafe, a small black envelope with no sender's name. Inside was a single card, its white surface embossed with gold characters. It read simply, "Be ready." Jihao slipped the card into his pocket without a word. It was 3 days before Meihua returned. The cafe was full when she walked in, and her appearance sent a ripple through the room. She did not look at anyone. She walked to the counter, placed a folded sheet of paper down, and stepped back. Jihao unfolded it. It was a formal notice of complaint, addressed to the owner of the building, claiming his cafe had engaged in public humiliation of a valued resident. The implication was clear. If she could not get her way inside the cafe, she would attack it from the outside. Jihao read the paper once, folded it again, and placed it on the counter. His eyes met hers. Neither spoke. News of the complaint spread quickly, and by the weekend, the cafe was busier than ever. People came not just for coffee, but to witness the unspoken battle between Meihua and Jihao. Some customers ordered extra drinks just to stay longer. Others sat with their phones ready, hoping to capture the next moment. The atmosphere was electric, charged with expectation. Meihua visited each day, always in the same seat by the window, her phone in hand. She never ordered. She never smiled. Jihao carried on as if nothing had changed, but Yuding noticed the tension in his shoulders. She also noticed something else. More customers were speaking to each other, strangers bonding over the strange drama playing out before them. On a humid Thursday afternoon, Meihua finally acted. She stood, walked to the counter, and addressed Jihao loud enough for the room to hear. "I will order now, and you will serve me first." The room stilled. Outside, the street noise faded beneath the weight of the moment. Jihao placed the cup he was holding onto the counter. His voice was steady.
"No."
The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and final. Meihua's eyes flashed. "Then you leave me no choice." She turned to the nearest customer. "Do you know who I am?" The young man, a student with ink stains on his fingers, looked at her calmly. "I know you're in a cafe with rules like everyone else." A ripple of approval moved through the room.
Phones were raised.
The air thickened with the sense that something irreversible was happening. Meihua's hand trembled, just slightly. The late sun poured through the windows, drenching the cafe in gold. Jihao stepped forward, his gaze never leaving hers. "Miss Lin," he said, his voice carrying through the silence, "you are welcome here, but not above others." The words struck with the precision of a final chess move. The crowd was utterly silent, as if the city itself were listening. Meihua's lips parted, but no words came. The golden light caught the faint sheen of tears in her eyes before she turned sharply and walked out. The door closed softly behind her. And for the first time in many days, the Golden Leaf Café felt lighter.